Hello everyone and welcome to your third grade coloring techniques. We have four of them. We have 8 of them. There's 2 new ones that are new from last year. So let's go ahead and get started. So a lot of these you should be familiar with, but in case you're not, we're going to review them. So outline and fill in is your first one. So outline and fill in is just what it sounds like. You outline around an object before you go back and you fill it in. So I'm outlining around the background because whenever you're coloring, you should always start in the background of your object, going around what it is that I'm coloring. And I'm really paying attention to where that color is going to go. And I've outlined around it, just like that. And now I'm ready to come back and fill in. So I'm holding my paper with my helper hand, and I'm coloring in as I go. Obviously your picture won't have words in the middle of it, but I did that just so we could be successful for the coloring of this. So that is outline and fill in. Remember to always color in your background first. So, and keep your crayon moving in the same direction for neatness sake. Okay, so layering is when you put 2 colors directly on top of each other. So that means I'm going to put one color down, just kind of like a flat color. Notice that it's the same color as my background. And then I can layer or put another color directly on top using even pressure on top of that color. So I could apply that same layering technique. Again, I'd outline around all of my objects, all that good stuff. And then I'd go back and I'd fill in. And by putting those 2 colors directly on top of each other, I have layered those colors in my background. Okay, next thing is blending. So blending is the foundations to understanding how to apply highlights and shadows. So the easiest thing to remember is that you have light coming in typically from the top of your picture. So what that means is that you need it to be lighter on top and it needs to be darker on the bottom. So knowing that, whenever you're coloring in an area, so say for instance I start with a base color. I'm just going to start with a green. If I wanted to make an area lighter, or if I wanted to blend on a picture, I'd choose to put a lighter color on the top section of an area. So say for instance I was doing the head of this cat. I would put the highlight or the lighter color that I'm coloring with on the top. Let's see what this looks like. So I'm taking my color, I'm adding it here, and I'm pressing down as hard as I can without breaking the crayon, and I'm getting a little, then I go down a little bit, get a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, and a little bit lighter until I'm barely tickling the paper. So I'm showing a smooth transition, a smooth range of values. You can sometimes take your other crayon and color into it so it mixes it a little bit more. As for making it darker, so I'm again going to color just a basic area, just the basic, outline fill in kind of color. And then I'm going to choose a darker color. And when you blend, you always want to put the darker colors on the bottom, the lighter colors on the top. So I'm pressing again as hard as I can. And then I'm going to get a little bit lighter in my pressure, press a little bit less, until there's a smooth transition but from dark to light. So again, remember, typically your light source is coming from the top. And so you want to use lighter colors on the top and darker colors on the bottom. The next thing is rubbing or using the side. So that means putting your crayon down flat that doesn't have any paper and pushing it. So that gives you a side coloring. Rubbing means that you use something that has texture. So the top of my crayon box has textures here. I found this drawer has textures from my pencil container. So I could use that. So whenever you're rubbing, you put the paper on top, you hold it with your helper hand, you lay your crayon, I'll use a different color, I'll use that one. You lay your crayon flat, and then you press. And what's happening by keeping my crayon and my paper, or by keeping my paper still, I'm picking up the textures from underneath. Next thing is stippling. So for stippling, you always want to have a base color down before you stipple. And this is when you use the point of your crayon to make a texture. So sometimes you have to kind of twist the crayon just a touch so that it actually gives you the small pokes. So you can use these controlled pokes to show texture and details. Overlapping for texture also requires you having a base color down. So I'm just using a side one to go quickly. And then you put the texture or the details or the patterns on top of that. So I can go back and I can add textures, details, fur of an animal, whatever type of thing I need to add. You know, patterns on a shirt. I can do that with this texture overlapping. All right. Twisting, again, you should always have a base color down before you do any of these techniques where you outline and fill it in first. And twisting is when you literally are just taking your crayon and you're trying to make a random pattern. This is really, really great for representing animals that have maybe a rough skin, like an elephant or something like that. Or if you're just trying to make a uneven surface, this is great for things like that. So that is twisting. And the last thing is engraving. So engraving means that you're coloring details underneath. So maybe I'm going to do a little bit of blending, just like this, what have you. And then I'm going to take another color that's even darker than those first, and I'm going to color it very hard on top, almost as hard as I can without scratching it. Then I can use my nail or something that has kind of a scoopy edge, and I can carve or I can engrave a pattern, and it will reveal what you've colored underneath it. So that's a fun one. All right, everyone, this has been your demonstration for your third grade crayon techniques. If you have any questions, let me know.